you to just come back one.
Oh, yeah.
All right, and just go to the source document. So that's basically ESQ's portal downloaded onto my system. The one thing you'll know about the products is what's being put together. We're not delivering lockstep training here. We're not delivering competency by competency. One of the key resources sitting in this package is the trainer's guide, right? And it's being delivered holistically. So all the competencies, Ian's done a great job in putting together, mapping the content. So we do have subjects like introduction to mining, legislation, communication, risk management, risk controls, reporting, emergency responses. But nested within every one of those topics is a cluster of all those competencies. So very rarely, while we're doing communication, we'll be also touching on legislation, a range of other activities. So where we are at the moment, we're into communication. So we'll start there. There's a PowerPoint that gives the trainers the traditional approach, but we're not talking death by PowerPoint. There's only a handful of slides for each particular section. We've got a trainer's guide. Brian, I'll just get you to click into the trainer's guide first, and that's what I've got on my hand here. We open this up, it's a Word document or PDF, depending on what you've saved it for. The first part of this for the trainer, it gives them a roadmap of all the different learning outcomes linked back to each one of the competencies. So it's all structured there to give the trainer understanding, well, what content are they going to deliver during these sessions? And that's just mapped for you. So very easy to onboard, especially with our experienced trainers. They understand the content, but they don't understand this product. These roadmaps are very easy to put a half-day professional development in place, where you've got the trainers on board, work through these trainers' guides, work out the content, work out how this package all fits together, and all of a sudden they'll understand how they can add their flavour to the program. But what this trainer's guide gives the industry is a consistent product. So if we scroll down to page 10 of the document, Brianna. Right. So the front part of the document is mapped back to all the competencies, tell us what learning outcomes are going to be part of this. Further down it tells me that this session on communication is going to take approximately 2 hours. It's going to cover off on legislation, communication, pre-start meetings, how the human factor can come into the program, fitness for work. So we've got a bit of an idea of what's being covered off in this topic. Roll down, tells the trainer what we're going to actually participate in the session, what communication is. Nice little two Ronnie's video there on communication and 4 candles. So yeah, a bit light-hearted, but introduce that one person might be saying something, they clearly understand it, but it's been interpreted completely different by the participants in the room or members of the team. So giving a good understanding in toolbox talks, take it back to the context of a mining context. Supervisor might be up there saying, I clearly stated what these workers needed to do, but they interpreted the language in a different format and didn't fully understand what the job was going to be. And as we know on our sector, our industry, very dangerous. Misinterpretation, communication is often the key to why incidents occur. Okay, so beautiful roadmap that we come through. If we scroll down, gives the trainer all the information. I'll just stop here, Bree. We've got the Blackwater truck accident. This whole communication section is built around a major incident that occurred on site where we had a gentleman lose his life, another gentleman seriously injured when they were basically, their light vehicle was run over by the water truck that they were trying to pass. Right? We worked through and watching the video, doing debriefs on it, bringing in all the components that we looked at the start of this session was policies, procedures, communicating in the workplace, pre-starts. All this is covered off and it's nested. So I'm not standing up here delivering a competency on communication in the workplace. It's been brought back together as a real live incident and the components that's listed in the unit of competency for communication is nested right in this program. So the participants are not going to feel like they've sat in a communication competency that has no reflection back to what they're going to experience in the workplace. So I'll just quickly scroll down here, Brianna. Right, we move through to this positive communication. Right, so what's positive communication? Two-way radios, use of troubleshooting finding. Just roll through for yourselves. Everything's covered through there. There's activities. I'll come back and talk about the activities, but pretty much it's the roadmap. Righto, we might stop there for a second. Can I get you to go back to our files?
Back to our files?
Yep. Righto, so this trainer guide gives the trainers the information of what they need to do. Righto, we'll just quickly jump into the PowerPoint so people understand what's sitting in the PowerPoint. Righto, if we scroll down, how many PowerPoints under this for the 2-hour session?
11.
We'll scroll down to the bottom one.
That is all.
For a 2-hour session, we've got 11 PowerPoints. So it's not going to be death by PowerPoint. A lot of the activities is hands-on, participant involvement, but it still does give the trainer something to refer back to. We just jump back out of there. 3. So we're still in Energy Skills Queensland's documents. So we've got the trainer's guide. We'll open up the knowledge assessment participant. So we've got for communication. Right, we scroll down, we've got your traditional questions that people are going to respond to. That's all laid out in the trainer's guide. So that's traditional, yet we'll get people to respond to some questions. We'll just drop out of there a second, Bree, and go back to our files, come back to communication, and we've got activities. This is where the real work happens. This is where people get engaged, hands-on. Without jumping into them, what we'll look at the Blackwater truck incident, there's parts on two-way communication. We're introducing safety signs, pre-starts. One of the key findings of the Blackwater truck incident was communication across different teams operating on that mine site wasn't clear. So we had 2 teams who understood what their roles were but didn't understand or didn't have any communication processes in place when they actually started interacting with each other. So that was one of the key findings. So this pre-start is where it's going to bring it all together. And what are we doing in a pre-start? We're communicating. Right? Also, fitness for work, the fatigue factor. It introduces Blackwater, the fatigue results in terms of where those people were in terms of rosters. And also, we're bringing it still back to the outcome in terms of what happened of the findings from the Blackwater truck incident. So if we just jump back to our resources again. Trainers' resources, basically that's going to give the trainers the intended responses that we're looking for across all these different activities and the written activities as well. So if we jump back to the ESG portal again, this is what we just looked in communication is pretty much the same for each one of those topics, right? We've got knowledge assessments, we've got PowerPoint, practical activities, so there's emergency response, we've got trainer's guide, we've got trainer's resources. From civil safety's perspective, I took this a little a step further in terms of creating a civil safety resource in terms of how this is packaged up. It's beautifully laid out there, there's no issues of what's sitting there on the portal. But for me as a training manager, I might have trainers on site that are working with contractors and they might not have all the resources available, and all of a sudden they've been asked to deliver generic induction to a group of contractors that have come on site. Very easy for my trainer then to go into the site administration people, they've got the files on their system, and I created a civil safety generic induction resource, which is the same package to what we just looked at, but I have one trainer's guide. So if you click on that, It's this document for all the 6 topics. So there's one print, they get to print out their trainer's guide if they want to go that way. If we jump back out of there, I created one PowerPoint. So the trainer can operate, he doesn't have to, especially if there's issues with the internet and all those. So if we scroll right down the bottom, the total resources, there's 110 PowerPoints. Doesn't feel like there's 110 PowerPoints when you deliver the program, but across it, there's 110 PowerPoints facing the program. Trainer can open up that one set of PowerPoints and away he goes. I've got an activity book. So in my activity book, I've put all those knowledge assessment activities and the practical activities together, right? Nested them into their sections. So if we scroll through, you've got written, there's the writtens. We come through, going to be an activity coming up shortly, right? So more questions, yeah, activity 6. So I've got one assessment booklet that I've cut everything in, and I'm no desktop publisher. Julie knows me. But I did this myself because as the manager, I really want to understand these resources because I manage across different offices around Queensland, and I've got trainers in different areas. I've been able to onboard this product with our trainers through Skype meetings, teleconferences, working them through these resources. Hasn't been an issue there. So I've got one activity book that they can print out for the participants and they can work through that. So if we jump out of there, great. Righto, the trainers have got their answers, so there's one answer book there that he can refer back to. He doesn't have to jump in and out of files. And the big one, the logbook experience. So I can change this as Energy Skills logbook. Helps us when we're working with contractors, especially if they're going back on site and we're signing off them after they've been assessed in that site, part of their standard 11. Down at Yatala where I've got a high-risk training facility, I'm able to set up that facility that replicates the environment. So it works well with the experienced workers and contractors. I've also gone a little step further. If I do have some inexperienced people that are coming in to do the training off their own bat, we've set up some logbook days, workplace activity days. Because it's a high-risk training centre, I've got lots of people coming back to get their hours up in their forklift, scaffolding, dogging, rigging. So it's very easy for me to bring in some generic induction people who are able to sign on as part of their risk assessment documentation, JSAs, and actually be part of that team and working with those participants as they're doing other high risk. And I've got trainers and supervisors, what we created as our logbook days and creating that. So that's, if we jump back out to the civil safety's resources again, so that's what I've created. That's our GI package. We've got an activity book, we've got a PowerPoint, we've got a trainer's guide, we have our logbook, and we've got the trainer's answers. So pretty much, yeah, that's how civil safety's implemented the generic induction. Thank you.
Thank you very much.